Hello everybody, my name is Jay Hayes. I am the membership chair for the St. Beaver District, the Buckeye Council here in Ohio. Today I would like to talk to you about using social media to enhance your recruitment processes. Just to tell you a little bit about my story, a few years ago I was the Cub Master for my son's pack, and we were sitting around 20 scouts in the pack, but I felt given the size of the town that we were in and the number of kids in the community, I felt we could be a much larger pack. So after some discussion with the pack committee, we decided to utilize Facebook in an effort to enhance our recruitment practices. And within a year and a half, we were up to 60 kids in our pack. So it is possible to use it and to be successful at this. And I do understand that for many of you, um, going online with your pack or your troop or your crew might be seem daunting, or you might be intimidated by that. Whether you're, afraid of what it is going to be like online, whether you're worried about trolls, protecting your scouts online is certainly something that you need to think about, and we're going to talk about today. And maybe, as leaders, you're very busy people and you already have a lot on your plate, and managing a social media account is just one more thing that's not going to fit in that 1 hour a week that we have to work on being leaders of our units. So I'm going to address some of those things today. I'm going to talk specifically about Facebook and how you could utilize Facebook to recruit new families and new scouts. Get into best practices, things that you can do to make sure you get the most out of your online experience for your unit. And obviously we're going to talk about youth protection because that's very important. We should stop for a minute and just ask ourselves, why would we want to use social media in Scouts? Scouting is an outdoor activity. We go camping and we play with fire, and not go online and do social media. Well, I think there's a few good reasons why we want to do social media. And the first is access to our scouts, and particularly access to our families, prospective families. Getting into the schools is getting harder and harder. Many units in many districts and councils and states around the nation are no longer able to go into schools and do joint recruitment nights or joint scouting nights. And certainly now with the COVID-19 pandemic, even those units who were able to get into schools are not going to be able to do that in the fall. So we need to start planning now for how we can go about recruiting when we don't have access to schools and maybe even public libraries in the next couple of months. So that's the first reason I think social media is important. Second is we talk a lot about citizenship in scouting. That is one of the aims of scouting. And we have merit badges for citizenship in the community, world, nation. Maybe we need to talk a little bit more about citizenship in the online community and how we can engage with our community partners, whether it's the police department, the fire department, our charter organization, local parks, museums, and other partners that help us throughout the year. We can certainly engage with them in an online environment as well. We can connect with other units, not only in our town, but maybe across the nation. Maybe there's another troop with the same number, and certainly there is. Maybe there's another Troop 99 somewhere, or Troop 101 somewhere, or Troop 2 somewhere that you might want to connect with and begin an interaction with. So there's all kinds of things that we can do online to enhance our programming and learn about new resources that are available to us in scouting. I also want to share some information with you, some statistics, and I pulled some things from the Pew Research Center. Every year they do a social media usage survey in the spring, and I have data from 2019 here to share with you. And this graph here shows usage among adults, and this is a percentage, so we're seeing that 73% of adults use YouTube, 69% of adults are using Facebook on this survey. Other social media outlets and platforms are less common among adults. Instagram is popular among younger adults, less popular among older adults. And as one might expect, the older a person is, the less likely they are to use social media. And I'll get into those statistics here in a minute as well. If we look at daily usage for adults, we can look at this top bar over here and see that roughly half, or just over half, 51% of all adults use Facebook more than once a day. And 75% of all adults are on Facebook at least once a day. And that's among users. So of the people who use Facebook, 3/4 of those people are on at least once a day. And that's a lot. That's certainly something to bear in mind. Here's something I found to kind of represent what's going on now with the coronavirus and the pandemic. And if we look over at the two bars on the left, those are the ones I want to kind of talk about, and that's YouTube and Facebook. And this survey asked people who use social media, did they expect or did they find that their usage of social media increased during the coronavirus? And 63% of respondents said yes, that their usage increased in terms of YouTube and Facebook. I know I've been on YouTube a lot more than I used to or normally do, and that's because we're just stuck inside with nothing to do. But you can see that trend across all platforms, that people are using social media at a greater rate, and there's no reason to believe that those will all go back to normal once the pandemic is over. Once people are in the habit of using social media, they will generally continue to do so. Next, here's some more information about age, and I think this is also very important. If we look at the 18 to 29-year-old demographic, and again, I'm only talking about adults here, we'll see that 91% of adults in that group use YouTube. And then in parentheses to the right, I've represented the change since the previous year. So again, this is data from the Pew Research Center in 2019, and on the right in the parentheses is the change from 2018. And you're going to see increases across all these platforms except for Snapchat, across all age groups. So Facebook, up 1% for the 18 to 29 population. Among the 30 to 49 group, up 1%. Up 3% for those 50 to 64, and up 5% for those over 65. So even older adults are starting to use this at greater rates every single year. Why is age important in this conversation? Because I think we've gone about recruitment wrong in scouting, at least when I was taught to do and what I thought about recruitment and scouting. And I think a lot of us as leaders think that when we're recruiting, we need to recruit scouts, that we're trying to recruit kids, kindergartners, first graders for Cub Scouts, high school kids for venturing and for the posts, and even for the troops. We're going to start to target middle school kids. And I don't think that's the right approach. If you think about our competitors, particularly sports, why is little Johnny in Little League? He's in Little League because his dad signed him up for baseball. Why is little Susie in soccer? Because mom or dad signed little Susie up for soccer. And why are most of our kids in scouts? Because their mom and dad signed them up, not because they wanted to do it. Sure, maybe they came home from school with a buddy card or something like that, and they're really excited about it, and mom and dad said, sure, we'll go check it out. But the decision to join is largely the parents. So when we're using social media, my argument is we need to target the parents and talk about the great things that we do in scouting, all the fun that we have, the lessons that are learned, and promote those things to parents. And social media is a great way to reach that population. And again, I think given our age demographic for our scouts, most parents are going to be in that 30 to 65-year-old range. We might even grab some grandparents in that age who maybe they were a den mom 30 or 40 years ago and would be excited to do that again with their grandkids. So bear that in mind as we move forward here. The next question we have to ask ourselves is, what are we using our social media for? I've been advocating for a recruitment and kind of external public relations platform in terms of Facebook usage. And but that's not the only way you could use social media. Some units may have a Facebook page that's private and nobody else can see it. It's only for internal communication. So you could post pictures and do things like that without concern over the general public having access to that information. Or, as I said, you can have an external communications focus where your Facebook page is outwardly focused, outwardly directed, trying to bring people to you. My particular pack, when we did this, we decided to go with a hybrid approach. And what I mean by that is when you create a page, you can have a public page, but develop private groups internally. So each one of our dens had a private group, and you could do this with patrols at the troop level. Each den had its own private group that was managed by the den leader, and they were able to share pictures and communicate with one another in that manner. Now, Scout Book has taken a lot of that functionality and the need to have those internal groups, but that's still an option and available to you. Before we kind of jump more into social media, I want to talk about a unit email address and whether or not your unit has an email address. I strongly encourage this. If you're using social media often, you're required to provide an email address. Or at least if you have a Facebook page, you're going to want an email address for that. You don't want to use your personal email address to that because then it's tied to you as a person. We decided in my unit to go with Gmail for a couple of reasons. One, it's easy to set up. Two, we had access to Google Drive, and we started storing all of our documents there. Particularly helpful were the scripts. Every year when it came time to do crossover or blue and gold, we were looking around. Who has the script? Where was the script from last year? What are we supposed to say? How does this work? Well, now it's all in Google Drive. And they're all there, and all you have to do is make minor tweaks to it. You don't have to worry about who had it last. And everybody on the committee has access to it. All the den leaders have access to it. So you don't have to worry so much about who has the password for the email, because everybody has it. Now, only one person should have access to the email itself, or at least respond to emails. But in terms of some of these other things, having more than one person is not only a good idea, it's actually required by BSA. And I'll explain that when we get to youth protection. But there's some other benefits to Gmail that I won't go into, and I'm certainly not trying to promote Gmail. There's lots of products out there, but that's what our unit decided to go with. Okay, so what I want to do next with you is actually create a Facebook page. We're going to call it Unit 1234 is our unit number, and we're going to create a page, and it's going to be an externally focused page. Remember, social media must be social, and as I talked about before, you want to engage with your community partners. Citizenship is important. Certainly your charter organization, the schools, the BSA, your council, your district, other units in the area, etc. We even decided to follow a few local politicians on Facebook to see if maybe we can get them interested in coming to a blue and gold. That didn't work out so well, but or come to fruition, but that's something you can certainly try to do. Another important thing about social media and its need to be social is how the algorithm works. And I'll get into a little bit of this later, but it's important that you invite your friends to like and follow your page and to share your posts. This should be something that every leader in the unit does when there's a post. They should repost it, share it, and react to it. And that gets other people to see it. And the more people that see it, and the more often they see that you're doing fun things, the more likely they are to bring their kid to a sign-up night. Pictures and things like that we'll talk more about. I'm also going to show you how to do promotions and also show you how to do Facebook ads. They're really inexpensive, and you could reach tens of thousands of people with them for just a couple of dollars. And we're going to get into all that next. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to give this a try, and we're going to start by looking specifically at the Buckeye Council Facebook page, and we'll start there as our home base. Okay, so I'm going to shift my focus a little bit here, and we're going to jump right into Facebook, as I mentioned. And starting here at the Buckeye Council website, so you're not subjected to my nonsense on my Facebook page. And the first thing that we'll do, if you go up here and you see this create button, and you're going to see that you can create a page. And when you do that, it's going to ask you a series of questions. And I want to talk about some of those before we jump into actually creating the page. And the first thing you need to think about is, what are you going to call your page? So the best way to answer that question, and there's no real guidelines on this, but perhaps you would want to think about, what are you going to search for if you were looking for a unit in your area. So let's just say that we are in Canton, Ohio, which is where the Buckeye Council is located. That's where the headquarters is. And let's just say we're going to go for Cub Scouts in Canton, Ohio. Okay, and let's see what happens. All right, we get, okay, grapes in a glass. We don't want that. There's some information about a program. Oh, here we go. Cub Scout Pack 624 in Canton. There's Cub Scout Pack 271. They're actually an alliance. That's about 30 minutes away. Here's one in Mentor, Ohio. Mentor is a couple hours away. It's in a different council. And then we're back to 624 in Canton. So we only had really one pack from Canton, Ohio pop up. Now again, maybe there's more packs in Canton, Ohio that use Facebook, but they have it on a privacy settings. What I will tell you is that there are 20 Cub Scout packs in Canton, Ohio. And if you're a parent and you're looking to join a Cub Scout pack and you didn't know where to turn and you just did this search, guess which pack you're going to. So that's why this is very important. Just to kind of show you an alternative, here in Alliance, and that's where I live, we have 2 Cub Scout packs in Alliance, Ohio. And right now it's not working for me because we've got one here from all the way in Indiana that has popped up first. But if we scroll down here, let's see. Here's Cub Scout Pack 50, and that is an Alliance. And here's Cub Scout Pack 2052. This is also an Alliance. And the name pops up here, Alliance High School, in one of our posts. Okay, so how you name something is very important in how it's going to show up in your search bar. So let's go ahead and create. Again, we're going to create a page, and we want to create a community page. And let's just call our page Unit 1234 in Hometown, Ohio. Okay? So we're going to put our unit that we're a troop or a pack or a crew, our number, and our city and the state in our name. I know that's long for a name, but that gives you your best results in a search. What category? We're going to be a community organization. Okay. And we're also going to put in here that we are a youth organization. No, I might have to take this part out first. There we go. Okay. We're going to be required to put in an address, and for this you'll probably want to use your charter organization's address. And I'm just going to drop in here Canton, Ohio. And I believe it's 44708 if memory serves. Phone number is optional. Now this is something that the committee will have to decide if the Cub Master or someone in the Key 3 wants to put their phone number there, or the charter organization wants their phone number there. That's great. Otherwise, it's optional and you don't need to do that. All right, so let's click continue. And it's going to get really slow on it for us. Okay, so next it's going to ask us to upload a profile picture, and then it's going to ask us to upload a banner picture. I'm just going to skip this for right now. We're going to come back to this in a minute. And this is a page cover. So a cover page, I called it a banner. That's a website term. In social media, it's a cover photo. So I'm just going to skip that. And it's going to create our page for us without any photos. Okay, so the first thing it's going to ask me is, do I want to invite all my friends to join? And I'm not ready for that yet. We only have a shell of a page, and we need to do some work. To make life a little simpler, I'm just going to show you a few things on this page, and then I already created a sample page that we could look at that'll speed things up. But the first thing is like your own page. Now your page has 1 like and 1 follower. All right. Now you can change this, as you know, if you play on Facebook, you can say see this first. So I'm going to see this first because I want to see what's going on my own page. There's an add button. Now we can add a button here, and I think what we want to do is tell people that how to shop with us. Okay, now this seems interesting. That's not what I wanted. Contact. Yep, that's what it is. Contact you. Sorry. So you want contact you, and we want to show them how they can sign up for scouting. So you can click next, and then in the web address, we're just going to put www.beascout.org. And hopefully your Key 3 has set up your electronic PIN on this website so that you can receive information requests through this website, as well as allow people to sign up for scouting through your unit. Okay, and now we're finished. And now we're going to see there's a sign up button there, and if we click on it, it's going to take us to beascout.org. And since they already know you're Unit 1234 in Hometown, Ohio, they should be able to find you pretty easily in that search. Okay. Next, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the sample that I made just to make life a little bit easier on us. And what I did for the cover photo and for the profile picture is I went to the BSA Brand Center. I want to show you that real quick if you're not familiar with it. If you're like me when you started putting together flyers and things for your events, maybe blue and gold, you went out and you Googled an image and you captured the image, and then you struggled to make it fit and do whatever it was you wanted to do. Now you can go to the Brand Center, which you can just Google BSA Brand Center, and it'll bring you to this page. You do have to register with the page with your email and a password, and then I believe it's the local council registrar here in the Buckeye Council, it's Cindy Boehm, will approve that. And I don't know how liberal they are with approving those things. You probably have to be a Key 3 or get some type of authorization to get access. But with this, you have all kinds of things to download. From billboards, council resources, email templates, flyers, envelopes, buddy cards, images to use on social media. All kinds of things are in here. tons and tons of photographs. You can see there's 350 photos just focused on in this resource. If we expand, our search, there's all kinds of stuff here. So if you do need something, it's a good idea to register with the Brand Center, and then you can get the actual images that you could shape and reshape and resize without getting funky pixelation problems. There are videos in here as well, and you could do a search for that. And I will tell you that videos on your cover will attract more people. It seems more interesting. And so what I did is, this is just one of the Scout Me In promo videos that I dropped in here from the Brand Center. Okay. Let's switch back here, and you're going to see up here it's going to tell you have some edit page information items that you need to take care of. And the first thing it's going to say is you need a description. And before you go ahead and fill out or try and make this information up, I want to talk about the BSA social media guidelines. There are guidelines to social media, and I'm just going to scroll most of the way down this page here. Oh, here it is. Okay. And it talks a lot about Facebook and the positives and the negatives. I do encourage you to read this before you get into creating your own page so you understand what's going on. But the BSA does indicate some of the information that you must have on your page, and what they just simply direct you to, and I'm going to drag this up into a new page, is that it directs you to the Boy Scouts of America Facebook page on the About section, and you need to use similar information or the same information as they have here. And I've done that already in my unit 9876, which was one of my sample units. And if we go to About, or we click on Settings, we'll do it that way, since that's where you're going to make those changes. And we're going to go to Page Info. Now the description, which is on the BSA Facebook page, is the actual mission statement of the Boy Scouts of America. So you want to just copy that and paste it in here. Categories: youth organization, nonprofit organization. Again, if you have a phone number and you put it in when we were creating the page, it will populate here. Or you can say, my page does not have a phone number. For the website, if your unit has a website, great, you could drop it in here. I simply dropped in scouting.org. You could also drop in your council website if you wished. Same with your email address. Your local address will have populated from when we entered that when we first created the page. And this is the Buckeye Council address. So I just dropped it in there. Service areas, Canton, Ohio. And the hours, you can either open on selected hours, and I just click that to show you that, say, if your meetings are maybe 6 p.m. Oops, we gotta do it this way. To 7 p.m. on Mondays, it'll show that's when you're open. And that's a little misleading because it's Facebook and you're open all the time, but in terms of your hours, you could do that with your meeting time, or you can just say always open or no hours available, and that won't be published there. Next is the product. Now again, this is information that's found on the BSA Facebook page down here at the bottom under products. And if you actually click on See More, there's a description for Cub Scouts, Scouts BSA, and venturing. And so what I just did is, and I'll just do it again for the sake of argument, copied the information about Cub Scouts and dropped it in here. Now there's the Scout BSA and the venturing information, but whatever your unit is, that's what you want to use. For the privacy policy, what I used is the website for the guide. Oops, that's it. There we go. The Guide to Safe Scouting. That's not truly the privacy policy. There wasn't a good example here for what to put in, but this is as good a place as any to direct people concerned about privacy, and that's this page here, because it does have the link to youth protection. Okay. A few other things you want to be aware of when you create this page is click on the general settings and go over here to visitors post. Now you can edit this and you can allow visitors to the page to publish posts. So anybody who finds your page can publish something. I would recommend that you check this button if that's what you're going to allow, and then one of the page administrators will have to review and approve the post before it's actually published. So whether that's from a parent or some Joe Schmo who's trying to publish on your page, you have the right to review it before it actually gets published. You can also disable posts so that nobody else can publish on your page except those you expressly give permission to. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute as well. There are age restrictions, page moderation if you're going to have a lot of discussion on your page. The other thing is the profanity filter, and you want to set that to strong, okay, so that nobody's using inappropriate language on the page. Again, we're trying to protect the Scouts and our unit and our charter organization. Okay, so there's a lot of other things here. I'm going to click on page roles. A lot of the other features are much more advanced, and if you are ever stuck and you're trying to do something, or you want to do something on Facebook and you can't figure it out, simply go to YouTube and type in, how do I blank in Facebook in the year 2020? And you'll find a video for how to do that. Trust me, there's people that make their living just making videos on how to do things. So what you want to do is always include the year, because Facebook does make changes pretty regularly. So if you put the year in, you're more likely to get the most recent information. If you don't, you might get a post that's a few years old, and you'll be very frustrated because you can't figure out what to do. Now, page roles. We're all familiar with the youth protection policy, and part of that youth protection policy is too deep leadership. So it's going to create the admin as the person who created the page, and you can certainly edit this. So if I don't want to be the admin because I'm no longer in the key 3, and that's going to be a job for one of the members of the key 3, you just change who this person's going to be. You can also delegate it. We have a parent who's pretty savvy with social media stuff, works in the media, so he took over our Facebook page, so we made him the editor. Obviously, he is a member of our committee now. He's had the background check, and he's completed youth protection training in order to do this. But in order to have too deep leadership, you do need to have at least one other person who has control of the page. And these we call editors. And there's a number of jobs here. Essentially, you probably want at least one other editor who has full control over the page. And then you have moderators. And you don't want to give too many people access to the page because they can mess things up unintentionally. But if you want your den leaders or some assistant scoutmasters to have access to the page to be able to post things, you can make them a moderator and they'll be able to do that as well. But again, it's very important that you have too deep leadership in an online environment. All right. Next, we're going to go back to our page. Unit 9876 in Hometown, Ohio. And here's where you can create a post. Okay? And this will have, and I put this notice here, this is a fake unit, so that nobody got confused. Okay, next what we're going to do is create an event. I want to show you how to do an event, because that's the most important feature, I believe. Now it's automatically going to grab your cover page, your cover photo or video as the video or photo for your event. And that's okay, but if you have something like Pinewood Derby, you could always go back to the brand center, grab something that's Pinewood Derby related and drop it in there. But we're just going to say join Scout Night. And we don't have a location, we're just going to make this an online event right now, and we're just going to say join scouting to make this easier. You're not required to select a category, but you certainly can. You could say games, all kinds of things here that might be worthwhile. If you're going to have food, if you're going to do crafts, if you have a specific theme for your Join Scouting Night, you could certainly do that. Otherwise, you can just select other. You have a start and end time for your event. Co-hosts. Now, this is something I highly recommend. If you're co-hosting or you're holding your Join Scouting Night, say at the local library, you want to make the library a co-host. Now, you want to tell them you're going to do that. And what that allows them to do is also access the event, see who's coming, see what you're advertising, and then you know what? It allows them to put it on their page as well to attract more people. I also like to add the district and the council as co-hosts. Now, if you're a co-host or you put somebody on as a co-host, they have to approve that they're co-hosting. So they have to agree to that before it's published or their name is published. And they may or may not do that. You know, the council might not do that. The district probably will. So if you can add co-hosts here, more people are going to see your event. I always check kid-friendly, and we are a volunteer organization, so we're going to go ahead and check that as well. We don't have any kind of ticketing available or anything like that. Here in the Buckeye Council, we do have the online registration system on the council's website. So if you're going to, say, your unit's going to go to a camporee or something like that, and there is a link that your scouts have to go and self-register for, you can actually drop in the Buckeye Council's website and link to the registration page so they have it there, and it'll be part of your event. Okay. I like to check this too. People can ask questions about the event on Messenger, and anyone can post. Post must be approved by the host or co-host. Just like we talked about before. If someone has a question, you want them to be able to ask the question, but you don't want random posts that aren't appropriate. And we're going to go ahead and publish. Okay, now we have our event, and the first thing Facebook's going to want to do is ask you if you want to boost your event. Boosting event is very similar to creating an ad in Facebook. So we're going to walk you through that. And there are some things you need to do first. Either you personally or the unit is going to have to create an account with Facebook for the financial part of it. So here it's called a pixel. I created my own. You just click here, or you can click here to create your own. And you can see there's my Visa. So if I was going to create this, it's going to charge me right now $2 for my boost. Let me start at the top. Now you can do a video, slideshow, or single image for your boost. Again, video or slideshow are best because it grabs people's attention. Um, we're not going to worry about special ad category at this point, but we're going to look at the audience. This is very important. We want to go ahead and edit this. Now we can change, do we want just men or women, but we're going to say all, the age range, and I'm going to say, just for the sake of my earlier argument, we're going to go 30 to 65. We want to go in the Canton area, but we don't want to go 50 miles. We don't want people that far away. We're just going to go people in a 10-mile radius. And it's going to tell us how good our demographics are and what we're doing. Potential audience size, 120,000 people could potentially see our boost. We're going to go ahead and save that. And again, here, we wanted to change this to just 10 miles. And we can do less if we wanted to. Now, based on the end date, you can change the number of days that this is going to boost. Today I'm creating this video on June 5th, so June 6th is the end date, and that was the date that we put in for our joint scouting night. So we can only boost for one day, but if this end date was a later date, say next week, we can say we want to boost it for 4 days, and it's going to boost it for the next 4 days, ending on whatever date we've assigned. Now that will increase your budget and how many people will typically see the ad. So what they're saying is out of 100, and now it's telling us 130,000 people could see our ad. They're saying based on what we've put in up here, only 22 to 64,000 people could see it on a daily basis. And that's only for $2. So it's very cheap. It's easy to do. There is tracking. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you want to tell all the parents to share this on their page. You want them to invite their friends, their neighbors, and make sure that this thing gets reposted as many times as possible. Okay? And that basically is how you boost your event. And with this, you're going to get lots of people to see it. Even if they don't click on it, they're going to see it. And that's the first step in creating an online digital footprint. People need to see what you're doing. Eventually, they may click on it if they see it enough times. All right, we're just going to cancel that ad. There are other things you can do. You can create a poll, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes when we get back into our PowerPoint and start talking about some of the other items that's going on. Okay. Hi everybody, I'm back. Just a few more slides and some information to share with you to make sure that you have a really great Facebook page and that you're following BSA guidelines in the process. The first thing I want to mention to you is the Facebook algorithm, and this is the Facebook algorithm as of 2020 in the springtime. They change it every so often, so this might not be relevant or the algorithm may have changed in the future. An algorithm is simply a mathematical term. It's all the zeros and ones that are happening behind the scenes in the technology. And if you've ever wondered why something shows up in your news feed on Facebook versus other people's posts that do not, I'm about to explain that to you. First thing you want to make sure you're doing is posting regularly. People check Facebook most often between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. during the week. So my recommendation is always do your posts right before lunchtime, because I think that's probably when a lot of people are checking their Facebook feed on their lunch break. The second thing that's important is to post things that are engaging. So if you post a picture and that's it, that's not very engaging. If you post something and asking parents to respond, that's going to get more response, and so the next time you post something, it may show up higher in their feed or in their feed period. If people aren't clicking and engaging on your posts, pretty soon they're not going to see your posts in their Facebook feed, and that's not what you want. So make sure you're doing that. The other thing that you want to do is make sure all of your leaders, and particularly, and ask the parents to like and follow the page. It's also important that they share your posts on their page so it shows up in their friends' news feeds, so that more people are seeing what you're doing. And again, the more people that see what you're doing, the more you're doing. If people don't see you do it, you didn't do it. And that's very important when you're trying to engage people. This is something I learned just recently. Reactions are better than likes. Now you can like a page or like a post, and that's that little blue thumbs up that you can like something. However, if you give it a heart or an angry face or one of these other emoticons, um, it increases the value of the post. So if you're going through Facebook and all of a sudden you're seeing lots of angry posts and you keep posting that little angry face, well, guess what? Pretty soon your news feed is only going to have things that make you angry. Facebook knows that, and they think you like that. Likewise, if you give everything a heart, pretty soon you're only going to see things that give you a heart in your Facebook feed. So those are important. So not only ask your adults to like it, but ask them to give it that little heart or the little hug, whatever the case may be. Videos are always better than picture posts because they're more engaging. People are more likely to stop and watch it and click on it. Do Facebook Live. People are becoming more comfortable with the idea of being live on the internet now that a lot of us have had to do Zoom meetings, and my daughter's had tap dancing lessons on Zoom once a week for the last couple months. So I think people are getting used to the idea of doing that. So let's say your troop is doing the opening ceremony for a city council meeting, and they come in bearing the colors, and they're the color guard, and they lead the city council in the Pledge of Allegiance. Facebook Live that, and people can watch at home for a few minutes. Same thing with maybe a Scoutmaster's Minute. If you've got a Scoutmaster who does a great Scoutmaster's Minute or has something very important to say, record it. Even if it's not live and you're just going to post it to your page later, that's great. That's okay. You could do that too. But those are ways to get people to pay attention to what you're doing. And again, I mentioned before the idea of citizenship in the online environment. Ask your community partners to like and follow your page. It's okay to do that. Tell the library, hey, we're following your page. Would you kindly follow our page? And again, if the librarian's sitting there at lunchtime and she's going through the library's feed and she sees all this stuff about Unit 9876 and all the wonderful things they're doing, she's more likely to continue to post that and repost it or like it, and then anybody looking at their page will see your post as well. So those are all things that are important. I did talk about online advertising and promotion, especially with your events. Make sure you're doing that. It's cheap, and the benefits are tremendous. I promised we'd talk about youth protection. As with all things, too deep leadership, no one-on-one contact. What that means is you have to have 2 registered adults who have youth protection training in charge of your social media account or as administrators, editors on your Facebook page. When it comes to photos, there's generally 2 rules that you need to follow with photos. 1, parents must provide consent, and they do that on Scoutbook. They go in and they check on the release button when they're creating their account so that you could use photos of their child, not just in social media, not just on your Facebook page, but say you're going to do a slideshow at your blue and gold at the end of the year, and you want to use their photos, they have to provide consent. Second, in a general way, you shouldn't take pictures of individual scouts. You should take pictures of group activities, and that provides a level of security for all the kids involved. And try not to get their faces. It's okay to get the back of their head. If they're all sitting around in a circle on the floor working on a project, stand back a little ways. Take the picture. You don't need to see their faces. Their parents will know who they are, but that protects their identity as well. Also be mindful that Facebook users, as part of the user agreement, must be 13 years of age. So don't go out encouraging your younger scouts to get a Facebook page. Don't encourage your Cub Scouts to get a Facebook page. Their parents should be doing that for them. Okay, I did give you some of the websites and the things that I was talking about today, and I'll leave this up here at the end. And there is an email address, social.media@scouting.org. If you have questions about what you're doing or not sure what you can do or should do, contact Scouting directly. And I've given you my email address as well, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks for listening. I know that was kind of long, but hopefully it was entertaining and you learned something. Have a great day.